Hello, fiber friends. It's Vlogmas day 4. Welcome to the show. I have some fun things in mind for today and maybe a deep thoughts with Evie type discussion when we get to our handmade making, finishing things section. But first, we need a blessing. The blessing for day 4 is, may each stitch you pull through a loop remind you that we are all connected. I have a story for this blessing too, but let's get to the handmade section before I really get into that story. So let's do that after we open the next Advent box. So let's do Advent and then I'll tell you the story. I am opening day 4 from Twice Sheared Sheep. Twice Sheared Sheep did send me the Advent box for this year, and there's a link in the video description if you're interested. Every other day, we are opening a second box that's all fiber, and that one is from Hedgehog Fibers, but we aren't doing that one today. We'll do that one tomorrow. All right, day 4. It's a little flat one. Let's see what we have. This theme of this box is stories, and so each of the items is supposed to relate to some type of story. I haven't looked yet. I have the back. It's suspense. You can look first. What is it? Is it even in focus? Oh, I love these. Let's take it out and get a closer look. This is a row counter. It has the little charm of a spinning wheel. That has to be Sleeping Beauty, right? I mean, I know there's a lot of stories that have spinning wheels, but like Frau Halda, that one mainly has a spindle where the girl and then her stepsister, they go down the well. Anyway, I'm guessing this is Sleeping Beauty. All right, then it has this little clip here. And so when you're counting your rows, you can move it to the number where it goes. And this is a large enough loop to fit a, it says 10.5 needles. So you can put it on your needles like a stitch marker and then you won't lose it. Very convenient. I like the spinning wheel because of course I like this spinning wheel because I'm a spinner that does other crafts. Some people might be a knitter who spins or a weaver who crochets and knits and spins or whatever. Well, for me, I spin and then I make stuff with yarn. Let me give you a little update about where I'm at with some of my finish these projects things. So first of all, I blocked this wisp tank and it has some nice, I think, drape to it. I like it. It's a little bouncy. I hope this isn't making weird noises on my microphone. The length of it, it stops like right at my waist. So I'm sure that wasn't a good view, but I have to keep Vlogmas simple, otherwise it's not going to get done. So you can imagine it stops right at my like actual waist. And I think that works to go over like a dress or something like that. And I do have plans to make a linen dress this summer, and I think this would go with that. But I already have the walnut dyed cotton dress that I wear a lot. And this looks great with that. So I'm happy with how this came out and I'm not going to lengthen it. I am glad I blocked it to make that decision. And also I want to say, if you have a camera and you're trying to decide clothing, like how long do you want it? How short? Is this the right cut, fit, style, whatever? Not just to look in a mirror, but to actually put yourself on video. And I would suggest putting your camera at the height that someone would be looking at you. Right? So like put it at the height where your eyes are and then, you know, step back full body in view, do some little pirouettes, and then put it down so it's like straight on the middle of your body and you'll get a different perspective, but that would be more like if someone's looking at you while they're sitting. And it can really help decide things. So here's the other sweater. This is the payday sweater. I blocked it a while ago. I kind of do like a maybe every 2 years, because I usually wear a shirt under my sweaters. I don't usually just wear them straight next to my skin. And so I don't need to wash and block them, but every now and then I air them out, and every now and then I do wash them again just for a hard freshen, I guess you could say. But I had it on the back of the couch the last time I did it, and then in the morning when I came out, it had slid and fallen down off the back of the couch, and so it was, like, all crumpled up, and it had some wrinkles. And so I steamed those out, and I put the little tag on it. It says, "This is the back," and it has a little sheep butt, and I think it's so adorable. I found some yarn. This is not the same yarn. This is a little more blue, and this is a little like it's blue but less saturated blue. But I was very proud of myself because on the back, like here's the tag, but on the back, I did a duplicate stitch on the purl side to attach the tag, and you can't see any of the wrong color blue. And also the tag isn't tugging. Very proud of my skills to get that done. So, yay, that's done. And also I did steam the collar and it is laying more flat. So that's good as well. This one's ready to wear. All freshened up. Maybe I'll wear it in a future video. Who knows? Who knows what we'll do in a future video? And then this one. Remember how I said there was a story with the blessing? Okay, so this one I was going to shorten, and I am shortening it. I had to look up how I bound off. Well, guess how I bound off? It was a bottom-up sweater. It was the cast-on. That but I was sort of reverse engineering it. Any expert knitters out there, let me know what you think. I was sort of reverse engineering the cast-on edge, and I went looking through different bind offs to find one that felt kind of similar. And the one I came up with was the Icelandic bind off, which I don't think I've ever done before. And I really like it. It's sort of a decorative edge. And when I was examining the bottom, you know, I want to say hem. It's not really a hem. We're not sewing, we're knitting. When I was examining the bottom, so it had 2 rows of pearls on the right side of the fabric. So I think it was like a cast on and then, you know, reverse stockinette. So the pearls are on the right side of the fabric, and then it went into stockinette, and then it went, and then there was another row of pearls like 3 inches from the bottom. And then it was stockinette up to where it divided out for the arms. So I thought, do I want to back it up to the length I want? And do I want to put in that decorative like stripe of pearls? And I thought, nah, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's good texture if the yarn's all one color, but this yarn is variegated and it's hand spun. It just doesn't even show up very well. So I backed it up. I took out that other pearls row, and then like stripe. It was more than one row. It was a couple rows. And then I just started binding off. But a couple places as I was frogging were really weird. And I want to know if anyone else has had this happen. So you know how there's like a loop and a loop and a loop, and then the next row has loops that go inside of those loops, right? And then when you, I know you know, when you unravel it, those loops come undone, right? So then you're just down to the loops of the row before. But why sometimes randomly does the yarn go through the inside of the loops? It's not a loop pulled up. It's like the strand actually goes through the loop. How did that happen? I'm still confused about how that happened. So to address that, it happened a couple times, like a couple places. And I was like, did I accidentally wrap a stitch somehow? I don't understand. How do you get the yarn So, for example, while I was unraveling it, when I came to those spots, I would have had to pass the entire ball through the loop to get it out. Is this a common problem? I tried to search and look around for solutions, and I wasn't finding anything that was actually what was going on. It was leading me to other problems I didn't have. And so I kind of gave up, but it was weird. How did I do that? And I tried looking through some topography puzzles to see if I could do a clever undoing of, the really common topography puzzle where it's got the posts and then it's got the two like bands that go from post to post, and then there's a big ring over those bands, and you can't take the the loop of bands off the posts. I hope you know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'll put a picture. Anyway, that puzzle works because there are two bands going through the ring because you have to fold those around to get the ring off. And I couldn't do that because I only had one yarn going through the loops. If I had two strands going through, and I couldn't I thought, oh, I should just, you know, make it into two bands going through and pull the yarn through and do the little topography puzzle thing, except it would be three because it'd be going and then back and forth. And so I'd have to treat two of those together as one. I think you're probably all bored. You're like, Evie, get on with it. Those are my current projects. I'm still working on my ugly Christmas sweater, and I'm working on, I'll get the rest of this bound off. That won't take too long. And then I'm thinking it's about time to start working on some handmade Christmas gifts. So that's probably what we'll be up to tomorrow, because I don't want to wait too long to get to those. So I'm going to alternate working on some Christmas gifts and then finishing up projects that I don't want to bring with me into 2026. We'll alternate. We'll switch it up. I wanted to talk about this comment because I thought it was really insightful and very interesting. It's from, I'm pretty sure we have New Zealand here. I'm pretty sure it's not because of the kiwi bird. So New Zealand wrote, I often wonder if the crafting journey is mostly in the initial creative idea and not necessarily all in the doing and finishing. I sometimes go into a craft store, material shop, yarn store, and drink in the wares and create things in my mind without the need to actually purchase any item. I really feel this feeds my soul. Is that weird? No, it's not weird at all. Joann's is gone, and I don't venerate the company itself for what it was. It took out so many small craft stores across the country. And, I don't want to get too much into all of that, but the company itself, no. But the thing it provided to the community, important. For me, one of my favorite things to do was to have a little travel mug of coffee and get in the car, and I'd go down to Joann's and I would do the exact same thing that we're talking about here. Walk around and just get ideas. So the issue is that impulsivity, oh, I'll feel good if I buy something. That aside, there is something about being surrounded by inspiring things that you can get ideas from. And I absolutely think that there is something essential to the creative process about doing that. To me, I think of it like the way artists have sketchbooks, and they can open it up and they can sketch out an idea. And maybe that idea becomes something more developed along the way later on, or not. Maybe it's just a sketch and they have that idea, and they can build into different things from that idea. But it's important because it's there because they created it. The thing is, for us, our sketchbooks, I mean, sure, we can sketch out, like a drawing to get an idea of the fashion of wearing the thing and what it would look like on a human body or whatever. But that's not truly our sketchbook. If we are someone who works with a hook or needles to create garments, our sketchbook, could it possibly be the started projects that don't get finished? And if that really is our sketchbook, is the starting and frogging process important? Because not like, oh no, like the ADHD strikes again. I can't find my needle size that I need because it's already on a different project that I started a year ago and I'm not going to finish. Right? Like there's that frustration to it. But what if we kind of reframe that and think of it more like play? Kids when they're learning, because I am a teacher by profession, if you didn't know, if you couldn't tell. When you think about the way children learn things, you don't give a child new information and expect them to just turn it around with correct answers. You give them new information and you let them explore that and you let them interact with that. That's where the play happens. That's where new ideas can spark. That's where creativity develops into a muscle that can be flexed. That process is so important for children because that's where you don't end up, even though we oftentimes do, with people who are so focused on the right answer that any wrong answer becomes something that's like internally, personally damaging because they did it wrong and there's shame attached to that, rather than doing something wrong is part of the play process. So that didn't work. I'll try a different way. Like these blocks fell over. Why did they fall over? We're learning how to stack blocks, but there's so much more, like spatial development and motor control and understanding of gravity and how things balance. Like there's so much going on in the play aspect. Or we could give them a worksheet and say, circle the image of blocks that won't fall over, you know? And I think as crafters, and especially as adults, and I will also say especially as adults who are products of the American education system, which I know we're not alone in this, but there's a heavy emphasis on get the right answer, which I would say has to do with so much of our standardized testing being the only method by which we judge success. But anyway, I won't get into that. Um, we lose the joy of play. And because we lose that part of the process and focus so much on the correct outcome, we stop recognizing that exploratory play phase in the things we do as adults. And it's so important, especially for learning new skills. Especially for learning new skills. You can't do it right the first time every time. If you did, you'd be a robot, and we're not robots. We're not meant to always have the correct answer. In fact, people who always get the correct answer have less understanding of the subject overall. It's the people who can make mistakes and learn from those mistakes that have a deeper and more broad understanding of that subject when they are exploring it. So, thinking about started projects, I know there's this whole thing like, oh, it's dopamine. And yeah, we get good feelings from it. That's a chemical thing happening in our brain for sure. But it's way more complex than that. People are more complex than chasing the dopamine hit. And I think that's like a term that we can use to describe that good feeling we get from doing things, but there's also an aspect of novelty to it that comes into play. And I also think that the play itself, the exploring those attempted projects, especially if there's a new skill in there, or even, a new texture or a new yarn or needle size, whatever. Like there's so many little nuances to our crafts that it it's a sketchbook. Our piles of unfinished projects are sketchbooks. And sometimes we might return to that sketch to develop it as a beautifully fleshed out picture. And sometimes we might return to that sketch and say, you know, take take what you got from making the sketch and move on, and that's when we frog it and do something different. And it's all kinda like, I had all this bouncing around in my brain, but it all fell into place when I read that comment, and I was like, "Oh, of course. Of course. We're playing." And, a lot of people like to watch my channel because I mm, communicate joy through the camera somehow, and people love because I smile and all of that, but, like, I think there's a way to approach the world, and I'm not talking about being unserious or Pollyanna all the time because things aren't perfect, but to make those little bubbles where you can say, "Okay, this is for me to nourish my soul with my crafts, and I'm gonna find joy here." That's important, and that's always what I try to do, because if you're going to learn something new, and if you're going to have a good time practicing something that's a skill, doing it in a place of joy is so much better than doing it in a place of harsh judgment and sadness. We don't need that. There's plenty of that elsewhere. In this place, we're going to play and we're going to have fun doing it, even as adults, because some of that stuff that kids do can serve us well through our lives, but just the nature of the systems we grow up in, it really squelches that, and that's sad. So let's play. What what do you think of this whole idea here that the attempted objects are sketches? And I'm probably not the first person to come up with this. I mean, if you're a teacher and you do crafts, it's probably an obvious thing. It's just sometimes obvious things bounce around before, they pinball and come together, and oh, there's the topic. There's the thing we can talk about. So let me know what you think of this idea. Does that ring true for you, that attempting things is a form of play? It's a form of exploration? Or are you just chasing that good feeling you get from the novelty of it? And that's why you abandon it when it becomes a grind. Or maybe both. Who knows? Who knows? I did a bunch of spinning yesterday. There's my bobbin. I just kept going over the top. You can kind of see the blue over here, and then this stuff was the new braid piece of fiber that I was spinning. And how am I getting this done so quickly? I would say I could get those 2-ounce pieces of comb top done in 2.5 hours is about how long I think it would take me. And I could probably get that down to 2 hours if I was like very focused and not having other conversations. Like if I was just focused on the spinning and I had like a playlist with the right tempo to keep my feet so I don't sink into my own like default rhythm, but it would keep me at a faster pace. I bet I could do it in 2 hours. I'm not trying to do like a time rush thing here, but I'm just communicating how long things take because I think some people are interested, and so that's how long. And I have this much left. So I am doing these from the fold as a long draw. It's going much smoother than doing sort of a hybrid worsted forward draw, but letting twist in to be the thing that pulls the fibers out of the supply. Like point of contact. All right, let's do a little spinning. I have 3 more pinches of that fiber to go, and then I will have finished the second floof. And I'm very surprised. I didn't think I would get that far, especially since I'm doing fussy alterations on some of my knits. So that's pretty cool. I'm not gonna complain. I am enjoying myself and I'm not feeling like it's too much. If it does feel like too much, I'll slow down and we'll just catch up when we catch up. But currently, I'm enjoying it, and I think it's a good balance for me to have new things, but also a big dose of getting other things finished that need to be finished or dealt with or mended or what have you. All right, friends, I have another topic for tomorrow that I'm really excited to talk about that kind of springs from the topic of today about the way that we sketch, the way that we play with ideas, the way that we interact with fiber as we learn about it and try things and explore and experiment and see what we like and what we don't like, etc., etc., etc. All right, friends, I will see you tomorrow. Happy spinning and happy Vlogmas.